Hi there, welcome to Tarotland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Libra energy, and like usual, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Libra energy, the bottom row a more worldly, shadowy Libra energy, because we've all got to make decisions, and in our Libra aspect of self, we have to think about, weigh out the scales. Libra is represented by the scales of justice, of what we think is just and fair. And, when we make decisions in our life, when we choose this versus that, there's a price to kind of be paid, something that has to be sacrificed. And, some things are more important to some people than other things, and they're what some people would be willing to sacrifice to do or have what they think is just and fair can be different than what other people are willing to sacrifice or do to get what they think is just and fair, right? It can be, it's too big of a sacrifice. And in high vibe energy, people want to be able to live their authentic life, not be manipulated and controlled, not be tempted more in their lust, their greed, their pride, their ego, to be indulged in something because they could want something, right? And it's like, I'm not willing to sacrifice my truth. And everybody has their idea of what the dream life is. And some people, if their idea of the dream life that they think is just and fair is for things to be all more about them, where they get to be bossy or controlling or whatever, they would sacrifice more loving, just, fair people in their life, because those people would want them to be more just and fair. And it's like, nope, I'm willing to sacrifice that to have it be more about me, for example. Okay, well, let's start out in the bottom row. The reason for the bottom row's reading is the Magician. The Magician is Gemini energy, which is about our dualistic nature, free will, and Virgo energy, which can kind of be what our truth is and our long-term goals. And from a more shadowy perspective, which is what the bottom row can represent, it can be more about ourselves, more about these things of the world, just have some lessons to learn about loving ourselves, maybe being more balanced, might make decisions more out of fear, insecurity, or codependency, or lust, or greed, or all those things. Our want for stability and security, our want to be in friendship, relationship, or have a job. All those things can kind of, are we willing to listen to our intuition? And because I think our intuition is a resource, that was given to us to work with. We've all been in more shadowy energy. We all have lessons learned at any given moment in life. Do we believe we have the resources in high vibe, Gemini, and Virgo to invest in truth and love and justice and fairness and listen to our intuition? Or do we get more manipulated by our more worldly, egoic nature? So we have the Three of Pentacles, the Strength card, the Four of Wands, and the Seven of Swords. So the Three of Pentacles can kind of represent, in Capricorn energy, we want these things of the world. And the Strength card in Leo, kind of about our ego, there's these things that we want to manifest in the world, and they can really manipulate us. And some of those things manipulate people more strongly than it can manipulate other people, right? What could manipulate me more so could be something that doesn't really manipulate other people, We've all got the things that kind of more tempt us in our more worldly, egoic nature, right? And there can be some people in the world, over here we have the Seven of Swords, and some people, because they could be so defensive to love or getting hurt and really more authentically emotionally investing themselves in people, they could be very smart at how they use their intuition at kind of gauging people, and how much do I think I can tempt someone, with these things of the world. Who can I manipulate? Who do I think will get together with me? The Four of Wands can talking about coming together with other people in a foundation, which can be a friendship, a job, or a relationship. Who do I think, maybe in their Aquarius energy of themselves, we all, in our Libra and our Aquarius energy, and our Gemini, and our Virgo, and our Leo, and our Capricorn, and our Aries, we want these things of the world. Some people don't plan to live their life any differently. They live life a certain way, they view life a certain way, and it is all about looking like a shining star in the world. Aquarius energy is represented by the star card. That's the most important thing. That I have a certain status or image, that I look victorious and successful, that I create, even if it's an illusion, that I create this illusion about my life, instead of really living their more authentic life. We're either kind of caught up in the illusion of the world, or we kind of see through the illusion and we're like, why do I make my life about this? I'm going to go live my authentic life. And quit letting the world and my ego and all those things kind of more manipulate me. High vibe energy is being free, being independent, being more free from your worldly egoic nature. So the world and your ego and your more immature, self-indulgent, lustful, greedy, prideful nature kind of isn't, and fearful nature, whatever, isn't manipulating you. High vibe energy wants us to be inspired to believe in ourselves and believe in our dreams. But we have to overcome our more worldly, shadowy nature. Or our worldly, shadowy nature will be in the driver's seat of our life. We have this dualistic nature in our Gemini nature of free will. Which one is going to be more in the driver's seat, and which one aspect of ourselves is going to kind of sit in the back seat, right? But we've all have lessons to learn, and we've all been more caught up in things of the world, and sure, if we invest in this, or we go indulge in that, or we make it more about us, or all these things that we're kind of told by the world. If you do this, and if you act like this, and if you wear this, and if you have this, and, you'll be happy. Some people already went and did all that. And it caused them some mental conflict in their Aquarius energy and their Libra energy, that it might have seemed like I had everything that I thought I could have wanted, and other people could look at me like, gee, you seem to have manifested what the rest of us could have wanted. But then people kind of have mental conflict about it if, people aren't looking at it as kind of a stage of life. It's kind of like if we were to view ourselves like an apple tree, to keep growing to our full potential. An apple tree doesn't have free will. It is kind of encoded in its DNA or whatever a plant has. Sorry for my biology ignorance. Maybe it does have DNA or whatever they call it. It will search for the light. It will try to grow to its full potential. But we as human beings, we have free will. And sometimes, we think we're really smart. And even if our intuition is kind of telling us these things are manipulating you, you're kind of getting tipped out of balance. You're kind of making you more important, or your ego more important, or your image or your status or these things you indulge in more important than believing in yourself, believing in your dreams. And, we all have to go through those phases of life and learning these lessons. And there's all been times in our life where we're kind of up in our head, and we didn't know if our dreams would come into reality, and we could have felt like I have to work more with these things of the world, instead of kind of more believing in myself. And I say that because the Three of Wands is Aries energy, like the Four of Wands. And Aries energy is about the self. Am I willing to believe I have the capability, if I keep being inspired by truth and love and justice and fairness and stay focused on the big picture, and then we're going to talk about what we'd have to do up here, but that I believe I can manifest my dreams into reality. I'm not going to... It's kind of like settling for the illusion of like you got justice in the world. But if you're in a job you don't love, that's different than being in a job or a career field that you do love, where you like going to it every day, being in friendships and relationships with people who, you could enjoy and get along with. But if it feels like it's kind of shadowy, like people are kind of maybe feeling like they kind of manipulate you, that it kind of has to maybe be a little bit more about them, that, it's not really just and fair. There's not equal give and take. People that you could be in friendship or relationship with are kind of more manipulated by other people, by their shadow nature, and basically want you to keep being manipulated by those things. And whatever may manipulate them, they want you to let that in turn manipulate you. And we could know some people that are very much could have things and people in their life that, like if those people didn't move forward in life differently, they're not going to move forward in life differently, not more independent to kind of live their own more authentic life, codependent on some other people in their world, that basically if they don't move forward differently, they're not going to move forward differently. Or some people who are just very much caught up in the illusion of the world. And again, the most important thing is it has to be more about them, or it has to be more about the status and the ego and the image, or these things we indulge in. And people can go through that phase of life, which I think we're all pretty caught up in the world, the first 30 to 50 years of our life. And we could have all those things, but then we could kind of feel like that was part of the process. Now let's go to the next stage of life. And that's when some of the people in our life are like, what? What? I always thought it was going to be this. I was never planning to manifest more. And, it can be in our Aquarius energy, kind of how we view life. And the people who are more, why would we give this up? This all looks great. We look like we got it going on. And it's like, because I'm inspired to believe, or I see how so many of these things manipulate us, we'd still probably have our jobs and our friendships and do a lot of the things that we do, but let's work at, high vibe energy again is just being more independent, of seeing what kind of manipulates us, why we do some of the things we do, why we hang out with some of the people we hang out with, or am I really living my more authentic life? Am I in the career field, that I really want to be in? How can I, if I could have learned, everything can be part of the process, that I might have a certain skill set or knowledge base or things that I enjoy, but is it the right job? Maybe I need to go look for a different job. Well, some people can really be up in their head about, well, gee, I don't know. There's a lot of things I could like about this job, but there can be things I don't like about it also. So basically the people who do listen to their intuition probably offer truth and love to the people in their life. They probably talk to them about some of the mental conflict they have, about continuing to move forward in their life the way they do, that they're kind of inspired to maybe step outside their comfort zone a little bit, have kind of seen some things or people or whatever. It could even be their own past pain or heartbreak that had used to manipulate them more, and maybe maybe they worked through some of those issues and now they kind of look at life a little differently than when we hadn't worked through some of our past pain and heartbreak or self-limiting beliefs. And then they're kind of ready to move forward in life a little differently. And that can be when some people in our life, some people in our life would be like, hey, that's great. You should go do you. This is my life and I'm okay and I don't maybe even think that way, feel that way. I'm good. You do you. And we can know people at all different stages of life, from really young people to really old people. And with most of those people, we're like, hey, you go do you. And they're like, yep, you go do you. Because we're at different stages and we know we're all not going to live life the same. And we have different things that we want to manifest and different things we like to invest our time, energy, and effort into, and things that are more important to us at different stages of our life than at other stages of our life. The hard part is when it's someone that we have been friends with for a long time, or we've been dating or been in a relationship with or married to, and one person kind of wants to move forward in life a little differently and the other person doesn't. That can be hard. And again, with some of those friendships or relationships, people, can wish each other peace and say, hey, you kind of are kind of motivated and inspired by some things that I'm not motivated and inspired by those things to the degree that you are, whatever those things are. Or I like to stay in my comfort zone, and the thought of stepping outside of my comfort zone really kind of gets me up in my head, and maybe one day I'll take some of the actions that you're taking in life, but right now I'm not willing to do that. But sometimes we could feel like people don't want us to be more independent, that people don't want us to really more love and believe in ourselves. And part of that can be because, again, they had this way of living life and viewing life, and that's how they wanted to keep moving forward. And if we start to heal or grow or mature ourselves in some way, kind of looking at life a little differently than we did before, and we're kind of motivated and inspired to not let certain things manipulate us the way it did, well, then it is kind of like we're on different pages. And then sometimes some people, at the same time, we could be thinking like we want to leave a job, a friendship, or relationship. Some of those people could be thinking they want to leave also because things have changed. We're not kind of motivated and inspired by some of the same things. We don't think the same as we did when we could have gotten in that job, friendship, or relationship. The way we feel about ourselves could be different. What we think is just and fair, can be different, because some people we've known since we were children. Some people were in our family. Some people we met along the way and could have been in long-term friendships or relationships with them. But both Aquarius energy and the Three of Wands can talk about, in Aries and Aquarius energy, our dreams. So, well, let's jump up to the top row and see what that has to say. Up here we have the Eight of Pentacles, the Two of Pentacles, the Page of Pentacles, the Knight of Wands, the Queen of Pentacles, the Five of Cups, and the Queen of Wands. So, the feminine figures can talk about how we think and feel. The masculine figures can represent how we're taking action in the world and how we're presenting ourselves in the world. Kind of operating in our more worldly, egoic nature, because we're kind of going out in the world and taking action in our body, per se. So that's considered masculine energy. But how do we really think and feel? And that's what the feminine figures in tarot can talk about. We can all get in relationships with people because we think we're hopeful that a dream is going to come into reality, right? And we all could have some fears about working together with other people. We could all have fear that maybe some people are being a little deceptive or manipulative, and some people more so than others. I don't know. I think a lot of high vibe people, well, maybe, I don't think initially they were worried about those kind of things in a way because they're just a more hopeful, believing person. Sometimes they get in relationships with people who are much more distrustful of people. But, again, in our free will nature of Gemini, are we naturally kind of more predisposed to having more hope and faith and belief in ourselves and in others and in love? Or are we a little more predisposed to being a little defensive to believing in ourselves and in others and in love? And of course, as we go through life experiences, we're not as naive and gullible as we were. We kind of realize there's not everybody's motivated by love. Not everybody's just and fair. Some people are quite deceptive and manipulative. Some people are much more motivated by the ego and the image of things and kind of indulging in relationships instead of really doing love. And then when we've kind of experienced that, then we've kind of got to work through learning that lesson, but not letting it stop us from kind of being distrustful of everyone, and just take the lessons that we've learned to maybe get to know people better than we maybe did before. Because if you're someone who has hope and faith and belief in love, and you think everybody's kind of motivated by that, you just assume if people are in relationships with people who are being authentic and loving and encouraging, they would naturally kind of work through some of their fears and insecurities or past pain and heartbreak to work together with you in love. But for some people, and they could have thought they would too, but then when it really got down to it, they really did emotionally have to work through some of their regrets of the past with the Queen of Pentacles and the Five of Cups to get to the Queen of Wands, where they have more of that hope and faith and belief in themselves and others and in love. And some people turn back in the Knight of Wands. So some people thought, oh yeah, I think I would be willing to do that. And then they get there and it's like, oh, wait a minute. That means I have to work through some of these issues that manipulate me. And that does take work and effort to work through those things. And some people decide that seems like a lot of work. And you have to be, the truth sets us free. And that is high vibe Virgo. And up here in the Eight of Pentacles is Virgo energy. In Virgo energy, you do this work within yourself to look at some of those things you kind of keep hidden in the dark that are kind of causing people mental conflict about having some hope and faith and belief in themselves and in others and in love. And some people could think, well, then I'd have to work through those issues, and I'd also kind of have to see through some of these things that manipulate me, my own immature nature, my own prideful nature, kind of being more about the world, or maybe being a little more immature, or, I kind of have to emotionally grow up and mature myself some. And some people might be like, you can go. I think I'll go find someone else to go get in a relationship with, And some people did that. And some other people had to move on without those people, right? But when we could have gotten in the relationship, in the Eight of Pentacles, people were putting in work and effort to, in the Two of Pentacles, kind of have balance in the relationship. And then hopefully in high vibe, the Two of Pentacles talks about picking up your investment in a past foundation to have this new beginning and go on this new adventure with someone else. And some people did that, and some other people still weren't sure they were ready to do that yet. Whether that was, because some people can have a foundation in their life. It can just be a friend group or their original family group that's kind of the primary foundation in their life that they look to. Even if they get in relationships with other people, even if they marry other people, it's kind of like, well, no, this relationship is kind of like a third party to this relationship that I have. And other people can get in a relationship with them and they don't realize that because they don't make their friend group or their original family group or something or some prior relationship that they were in the primary foundation in their life. They are ready to put in work and effort to manifest this dream into reality. And sometimes some people just kind of create the illusion they're willing to do that. And people maybe don't find out till quite later that they're really not ready to become independent. And it could be, again, the Two of Pentacles can be that some people still are going back and forth about the truth. And in the Seven of Swords, the 5, the 6, and the 7 of Swords are all Aquarius energy. I have a dream. But, we'd start out with the 5 swords, and then we can move forward in a relationship, and we can move forward in it for quite a while, kind of like going through a phase of a relationship or being at a job. But then the 5s and the 7s can talk about, they're kind of these transition points. And I kind of look at the 7s as kind of a tipping point. Are we ready to tip more in favor of continuing to invest in this dream? And that does mean we'd probably have to pick up our investment in some old ways of being, or maybe being more about ourselves, or kind of still being kind of more immature, or kind of more indulging ourselves in it. And we'd really have to more emotionally invest in it. And we would have to work through probably our ego nature, some of our fears and our insecurities about, maybe being in a more deep, meaningful relationship. And there can be some people in the world who are never going to do a more deep, meaningful relationship. They like to maybe live more from their mind than their heart. When they're in relationships with people, they can work cooperatively with people, maintain pretty much balance in the relationship and can enjoy being in the relationship. But eventually, when people get in a relationship with them and are in it long enough, they could have hope and faith and belief that these people would quit being living more of their life more from their mind than their heart, and that they'd work through those issues to be more willing to be more authentic in the relationship and come out from kind of behind. The Queen of Wands up here and the Strength card are both Leo energy, and in our Leo energy, we can kind of hide behind our more egoic, defensive nature. And for some people, that is their truth, and that's how they're going to want to live their life all their life. We have to put in work and effort to get more balanced within ourselves. We have the 8 of Pentacles in Virgo can represent, just like the Queen or the 3 of Pentacles in Capricorn, it can represent our more worldly nature. But are we willing to temper our more worldly, egoic nature to get in the 2 of Pentacles and like our Libra and Capricorn energy of getting more balance to come together in joy and celebration, kind of with our more hopeful, believing inner child nature of the Page of Pentacles, of willing to be a student of life. And then in the Knight of Wands of Sagittarius is kind of like looking at life as an adventure to be lived. And life is all about learning these lessons. And have we tried to manifest things before and it didn't work out the way we wanted? Well, are we going to keep letting those things manipulate us where then we give up on our dreams and being more bold and brave and confident within ourselves to do love again? Some people decided, yep, I'm not doing love again. I get hurt doing that. From now on, I'm going to live more from my mind than my heart. I want to be in a relationship. I might like to be in a relationship. But from now on, it's kind of more, whether people are male or female, I'm kind of indulging myself in it. Enjoying it. I'm willing to work together with people. But if they ever want me to come out and kind of let my more inner child kind of out to play in the world, no, that's not going to happen. But yet, they like to be in relationships with people who are being authentic and loving and encouraging, because we all do, right? We all like to be around people who are not operating from their more egoic, defensive, immature, manipulative, prideful, egotistical ways of being. They're loving and encouraging and supportive, and those people exist in the world. And they try to encourage other people to move forward with them in that way. And some people are like, yeah, I like being around people like that. That's great. That's not who I am, but I'll try to create the illusion that's who I am so those people will get in a relationship with me. I really am more about me or the world or the ego or the image of it, but I'll create the illusion it's love. And so long as those people don't know the truth about me or buy into the illusion of how I present myself, well, then maybe I can move forward with those people. And, again, some people don't know the truth about these people. They think, oh, they seem to present themselves as someone who's more truthful and authentic and not as prideful or egotistical or more about themselves or still wanting to be in a different relationship or still codependent on their friend or family group primarily. And some of those people invest in them. But then as time goes by, the Five of Cups and Scorpio energy can be where over time it doesn't become the Queen of Wands and the Three of Wands, where it becomes a more, relationships grow and mature over time. And it feels like it can grow and mature somewhat, but it kind of gets to the sticking point of, do you have more hope and faith and belief in love? And the other people are like, no, because I would have to quit living more from my mind, and I'd have to have more hope and faith and belief in myself and in others and in love. And even though a part of them could really want to move forward in that relationship, like, damn, that would be like a dream come true. But they just can't work through all these things and thoughts in their head of maybe the fear that maybe someone's deceiving them or manipulating them. It's kind of a hard thing to understand or relate to if you're not someone who thinks that way. But, I think high vibe people end up concluding that I want to feel in high vibe Leo proud of myself. Proud of myself that I do feel like I gave everything I could. I was, the less prideful you are, the less harder it is for you to work cooperatively in a just and fair and authentic and loving way with people, because you're not in your ego about doing it, but other people could feel like, because high vibe people think, well, I can take my skills and resources to offer love to myself if it doesn't work out. and be inspired within myself and be proud of myself of how I work together with people. I can take those resources with me into my next job, friendship, or relationship. I'm proud of myself that I know I work together with people. It's kind of like I gave the highest energy of all. I worked together. I was willing to temper my ego. I was willing to grow up and mature myself. I was willing to not be petty or immature or whatever else. But for some other people, for one, you have to believe you could pick yourself back up again if it didn't work out. And some people might be afraid that they wouldn't be able to pick themselves up. Like, if I really were more to authentically invest in someone and it didn't work out, maybe feeling it would be so devastating, they wouldn't be able to overcome it. Wouldn't be able to, like, maybe reclaim their heart. But it's hard for people who did emotionally invest in people, but as time goes by and they live their truth and they see the other people living their truth, they kind of work through the mental conflict of it, and they look at life from a higher perspective in how they harness their Aquarius energy. And it is confusing, and it's emotionally confusing, but they accept the truth that things don't always work out the way I want, even if I am in high vibe energy. Just like I, at different times in my life, even if it was just in relationship to my parents, who wanted me to grow up and mature myself, and I wasn't ready to grow up and mature myself. And I had some past pain and heartbreak or immaturity or ego or whatever I had to work through, right? And same way I could have been in relationships, and we'll all kind of repeat certain patterns until also we learn to invest in ourselves and love ourselves and work through some of those issues that manipulate us. So we could have all had people who are more loving and encouraging to us in our life at different times in our life when we didn't move forward with those people. So high vibe people are able to put things in perspective, just kind of understanding how they've been in that spot before. Doesn't mean they won't be really angry at some people, just like some people could have been really angry at us at different times in our life. But they look at it from this much bigger perspective. And they don't, even though there's a part of them that has a hard time moving on from some people and could kind of want to reconnect with, say, some people, because it is scary to go find that new job, that new friendship, that new relationship. Aquarius and Scorpio and Taurus are fixed sign energy, and we'd really like the things that we put work and effort into trying to manifest. We'd really like those things to work out the way we wanted. But if during the course of that relationship that we were working on, it wasn't moving forward the way we thought it was going to move forward, and if we thought some people were being kind of immature, or people are more codependent on another foundation, or they really are more about themselves or the ego or the image, and it's not really love, I'm not willing to give up my dream. And I don't want to settle for the illusion. So, even though there could be a part of me that would want to, like, get in a relationship or a friendship or whatever, instead of feeling sad that maybe I'm not in certain friendships or relationships with people that I'd like to be in, the fact that I have seen the truth, and I would have quit from the Eight of Pentacles down to the Two of Pentacles. I'm not exchanging time, energy, and effort and resources with those people, and they're also not exchanging time, energy, effort, and resources with me. time, energy, and effort. And in between the 8 and the 2 is the 6 of Pentacles of Taurus energy, about our philosophy of life, what our truth is, what we think is just and fair, our idea of what our idea of the dream life is, and what we want to manifest, and what we think is just and fair. We've seen the truth. It's different. There were some things that took place in some of those relationships, and some people are going through it right now. You know, some other people already went through it, and they already kind of picked up their investment in those people. Some people now, again, we can move away from people and pick up our investment in them, or we're not working together with them the way that we were. But that's just part of the step. The next step is for the people who did emotionally invest themselves in people. We're emotionally complex human beings, and that's what Scorpio talks about. We can have all these conflicting emotions, just like we can have all these conflicting thoughts about people. They were a bitch. They were an asshole. They were rude. They were mean. They were bossy. They were controlling. They were immature, you know, depending on if you're dealing with like an adult child, brother, sister, mom, dad, friend, or romantic interest, right? We can have all these different feelings towards people, and it is difficult to work through it, and it takes time. So the first step might be, if some people did some things that we thought were immature, maybe juggling the truth, being kind of deceptive, manipulative, being stubborn, being prideful, kind of feeling like we were always the one having to put in kind of the work and effort to try to keep moving the relationship forward, you know, eventually you wonder, you know, do you want to keep putting your work and effort into this, or don't you? And if you don't, well then, you know, I'm going to quit putting in the work and effort too. I wish you peace. You know, you go do what you want to do. I thought we both wanted to keep working on this, but if it seems like you keep not wanting to, eventually I'm going to quit trying to get other people to move forward with me, and instead I'm going to be inspired to work through letting them go. And if there's been people who decided, nope, I don't want to invest in this anymore, nope, I don't want to step outside my comfort zone or something, I'm okay making my life more about these things. And, you know, we could just kind of come to realize over time that, you know, here, our truth is just different, I guess we could say, right? And we can be sad, we can be upset, but the high vibe people, because of love for themselves and their truth, they're not going to keep kind of chasing after people or indulging people. And if they have spoken their truth in love to try to work things out, and the other people keep not wanting to work together with them in that energy, well then apparently we view things differently. So I'm going to work through my regrets of the past, and I'm going to keep focused on the future. And from the 1 wand to the 3 of wands, it's kind of like taking back the 2 of wands, which the 2 of wands can be, I had this dream, and then with that Ace of Wands, we take action to try to bring that dream into reality in the 3 of Wands. And then to hopefully come together with other people. But, you know, if we've done that, we can only do what we can do. The other people have their free will and what they want to invest their time, energy, effort into, and their idea of the dream life, dream friendship, dream relationship. And for some people, if they know that they couldn't live more from their mind than their heart, if they were to do this type of relationship, well, then they're not going to do that. They're going to keep doing this. If it would require them to work through some of their regrets of the past and be in high vibe Leo is being more authentic, come out from behind their ego nature, they're like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep doing this. I think I'll be okay working together with people, still juggling the truth, maybe. Being in a relationship with someone where either I can still live more from my mind than my heart, still be kind of more immature, go find someone else to indulge, or maybe I'll go indulge someone else. And some people, what's most important to them is the ego and the image and the status. And if they think when they're in relationships with people and they think, well, I have more of those things than you, whatever that could be. I have more money, status, image, power, more attractive, more social clout, or whatever. That is, between here I said the Six of Pentacles, that's Taurus energy, and the Queen of Pentacles I view as Taurus energy. Some people have a shadowy Taurus philosophy of life. Whoever has more of things that people want in the world should be the more indulged person in the relationship. And they could be put more precedence on status, ego, image, money, social clout, or if they like to indulge in certain things to make themselves feel better because they haven't worked through some issues, they could then want to keep indulging in those things and be in a relationship with other people who want to indulge in those things. And if they were to be in a relationship with people like this, if those people aren't doing that or making their life about those things or have those things as a vice, they don't want to keep being in a relationship with them. If this relationship would keep requiring them to be more just and fair and balanced, but they were just creating an illusion, they were more balanced, but they're really more, still got some things to work through, it kind of gets too hard. And what happens when they try to move forward in a relationship? It's just like people getting in a job that they're kind of really not ready for or mature enough for or really have the work experience for. They kind of get in something that they're really not qualified to deal with. And then what happens when you move forward in it and things happen that are challenging that you have to work through? Well, people who have been enlightened to the truth offer truth and love to it. And when they go through things within themselves, they know how to offer truth and love to themselves and love and encouragement to themselves to work through difficult things just within themselves. And if they're people they're in relationship with, they offer truth and love to those people. And some people really, that's not where they're at. And, they don't want to do that work within themselves, and they might not if other people work through their issues to kind of be free of them, they didn't work through their issues to kind of still be on the same page as them. Or the other people eventually just kind of find out they are more kind of superficial and shallow, that it was more for these reasons of the world or how it benefited them or the ego or the indulgence of being in a relationship, but realizing it's never going to be a more deep, meaningful, kind of more authentic, inspired by love relationship. And that's when the other people leave. And then, people will go back and repeat a pattern, because we can try to create the illusion we're ready to, that we're more stable, grounded, mature than we are when we go get in a friendship, a job, or a relationship. But if we're not, and we aren't inspired to put in work and effort to temper our ego, to put in that work and effort to kind of learn what we need to learn, we're going to kind of try to cheat the justice system, hoping that because other people might have a hard time giving up on us, that they'll keep letting us move forward with them. And sometimes that's what shadowy people count on. Oh, I don't think you'll love and believe in yourself. Oh, I don't think you'll want to leave this relationship. Oh, I don't think you believe in yourself. I think you'll let me come with you. Again, regardless of who that is in your life. I think you'll keep being in a relationship with me and indulging me in my poor behavior. And people, depending on who people are, you're less likely to do it with just an acquaintance, a neighborhood person, just someone at work. But, the more invested you are in them, if it is like an adult child, a brother, a sister, a mom, a dad, a close friend, you would be more willing to invest more time and energy and effort into trying to make it work than you would with just anyone else, right? And we've all made our mistakes in life, and some people moved on ahead of us. Some people were more bold and brave and confident than we were at different times in our life. The high vibe people are doing work right now to maintain balance within themselves, to focus on having this new beginning and investing in staying focused on the future. There's some people in their life they have definitely seen the truth of. They know they're more immature. They know they're kind of more deceptive or manipulative or prideful or egotistical or don't want to do love. And regardless of who they are, it's like, I'm living my truth. And with some of those people, again, if they're family members, I can always be a loving and encouraging person in your life. Do I want to spend that much time with you? No. You need to go hang out with some other people and realize it's not just me who doesn't like hanging around you. Or go find people who live life or act like you do, or treat other people the way you treat people, and then you'll be in your own happy community. But I don't like it. So I'm not going to invest as much time, energy, and effort into you. And for some people, it is because of maybe age and emotional maturity. Some other people are your age, but you know that they're just kind of immature. Anyway, what's coming up for some people who harness some high vibe Libra? They are working to keep maintaining balance and move forward, offering other people love and encouragement, in turn have some loving and encouraging people probably in their life, working through regrets of the past to keep focused on the future. What's coming up for the high vibe people that they might not see coming? And, we can all be disappointed that as we're working in our life, again, in our community, in our workplaces, we can meet different people, we can try to work together with them, and some of those people are like, no, I'm not interested in working together in that kind of energy. I like to do this. And it's like, yeah, no. You're being immature, or you're being prideful, or you're being stubborn, or you're being deceptive or manipulative. I got enough people in my life that I kind of have those kind of relationships with. I'm not taking on any new people. So just the older you get and the more life lessons you've learned, it's like, it doesn't maybe get you up in your head like it used to get you up in your head, because I think people who are kind of immature and shadowy and manipulative, they know that high vibe people are being authentic and loving and just and fair. So then you expect to get justice, and they know it can kind of get you up in your head like, well, why aren't these people coming with me and working with me in that way? I'm being just and fair and authentic and loving, and I'm not being bossy or controlling or manipulative or shady. And it's like, well, because that's not the kind of relationship they want to do. They want to do this kind of relationship. And then with some of the new people that you meet in your life as you learn these lessons in life, when you're like, well, I don't get it, but it's like, okay, oh well. Then I'm not going to keep trying to invest in working with you as much. I'm going to focus my attention more on the people who do seem to be interested to work together with me in this way. And then that's when, you know, some people never learn these lessons, you know. It doesn't matter how old they can be, they can have people come into their community, into their workplace that are just and fair and loving people, have no ill intentions, but they're a shadowy person. And then they try to manipulate people and act in these immature ways. And then when somebody's like, oh, okay, well, all right, and they keep moving on, then some of those people are like, damn, I did it again. It's like, yeah, why do you keep doing that? You know? And the high vibe people are like, thank you for showing me the truth of who you are. Glad we got that out of the way. Now I know that, you know, you're not someone that I am really interested in investing much more time, energy, and effort into. And then the other people got to go back to the people that they probably already got that they're being kind of snarky or whatever with, because, you know, they had the opportunity to kind of temper their ego and maybe grow up and mature themselves, but they repeated some poor past patterns and some other people moved on. It's like, oh shit. What's coming up for the high vibe people they don't see coming? The Four of Pentacles and the Judgment Karma card. Why? Because of the Tower. So, this can be interpreted in a couple ways. For one thing, as you do this work within yourself to not get up in your ego, not repeat poor past patterns, not indulge people in poor behavior, and you keep doing this work and effort, staying in an energy of balance within yourself, treating people the way you like to be treated, you know, and you see other people not doing that, it just helps you get more and more clear about the truth of the foundation that other people operate from. And that's what the Tower can be about. Seeing through the illusion. You know, we can all have hope and faith and belief that people will grow up, mature themselves, be more just and fair, act with character and integrity. But as we're kind of standing up for our truth and taking action in our truth, and they keep doing what they're doing, just during this process, it helps us detach and see the truth of their foundation. And so eventually it can feel like, oh my gosh, you know, doing this work to free myself mentally or emotionally from the past and feel like I've really have this new beginning. It comes in time, but it does take time. And you see who you should be holding back from in the Four of Pentacles and who you should hold on to. And who are the people in your life who are loving and encouraging and supportive while you go through these different situations in your life, and who are the people who hold back from you, and who are the people who are being manipulative or deceptive or immature and repeating old patterns. And you're able to get out of the mental conflict of being in two minds about it. And you get to the truth. And the truth sets you free. And you close out a cycle in your life. You successfully learned a lesson that you're supposed to learn about something that could have kept manipulating you. And because you stood up for yourself and invested in yourself and loved yourself and gave yourself the things that you wish other people would have given you, it helped you more clearly see the truth and see through the illusion of some people. If people were motivated to be just and fair, they'd be just and fair. If they were people who really act with character and integrity, they'd act with character and integrity. If they were interested in speaking the truth, they'd speak the truth. If they were interested in growing up and maturing themselves, they would. And you see who is who they say they are and who isn't who they say they are. And before, people could have been holding back from calling judgment on some people. And it's just kind of like a slow, gradual process. As we keep just moving forward in our life, it's kind of like people naturally just kind of fade away from our life because we're not investing in certain habits or hobbies or pastimes and certain people. And we'd maybe only be more in relationship with them if we were doing those things. And then maybe some of those people, like if you're not doing those things, or acting a certain way, or behaving a certain way, or indulging in a certain way, or indulging them, or reaching out to them, they in turn aren't putting any work into it, and you kind of see the truth of it. And then I think with the judgment card, it means that judgment goes in favor of those people who did act in truth and love, were willing to heal and grow and mature themselves. And it frees you from, when you really learn the truth about something and a way of living life or viewing life or how you view yourself or how you view the world and what you think is just and fair, it's like impossible to go back to repeating some of those patterns again, because you had to go through maybe so many different situations in your life that were that same kind of pattern, but just with different people. And it's like, I'm done. And maybe you and your own Libra energy standing up for your truth, no longer letting people maybe use your loving nature to try to manipulate you, your want for these friendships or relationships to work out, to keep manipulating you. And it's like, it has to be just and fair. And if it's not just and fair, then I don't want it either. And for as long as you are willing to keep trying to work on it, even when it wasn't just and fair, you had to keep experiencing that until you're willing to say, no, I'm not willing to do it anymore if it's not just and fair. And if people aren't treating me the way I'm treating them in kind. And it's kind of realizing your dream can never come into reality with other people if they're not working together with you in that same energy, because the dream you want to bring into reality is based on truth and justice and fairness and being inspired within themselves to be authentically that type of person. And some people, that's not where they're at in their life. And they may never get to that stage of being in their life. But there are other people who authentically are motivated and inspired within themselves to work together with people in a just and fair and inspired by truth and love and justice and fairness. And some of those people are going to want to hold on to you. And it could be kind of surprising who are the people who aren't and who are the people who are. And it could be a tower moment for some of the people in your life. If you had people who were trying to manipulate and control you as you're trying to move forward, you're trying to inspire people with truth and love to look at life from a higher perspective. And some people are like, nope, I want to keep doing this. I don't think you're going to want to become independent of me or leave me behind. As you keep standing up for yourself, it's like, yes, I am willing to detach from you so long as you keep being in that energy. I wish you peace, hope it works out, but I'm going this way. And if that's not your truth, then I'm going to listen to my intuition about it. And you're not going to use the fact that I might have love for you to manipulate me. I don't like to be in relationships with people who use the love that I have for them to try to manipulate me. That isn't someone I want to be in a relationship with. And it could be a shock to those people too. And as you're moving forward in your life, we can always get to know other people in the world. And Other people are having to decide what are they going to do, who are they going to align with, who are they going to hang out with. And as you keep living your truth, I think some people who maybe weren't seeing you clearly are going to see the truth of who you are. You know, because, and some people won't. You know, it's just the way it goes. So, and there's some people that don't want to let a foundation go with you. You know, so you keep living your truth and you'll see who, you know, not investing more of your time, energy, and effort into people who are being deceptive or manipulative or immature, speaking your truth to people, living your truth, not repeating old patterns, and some people who maybe weren't sure if you were telling the truth or not, some of those people could be like, I think they are telling the truth, and I am willing to get to know them more and or reach out to them and communicate with them to work through some issues, and we'll see how it goes, you know? What's coming up for some people who harness a more worldly, shadowy Libra energy that they might not see coming? Who maybe keep thinking they can keep manipulating other people or manipulating the truth. We have a card coming out not showing itself, and the reason is because of the Justice card. What is the card? The King of Pentacles. You know, there's some people who do want to live a more worldly focused life. I want to make my life more about these things of the world. That's how I view life in their Aquarius energy. They don't maybe look at life that there is any higher purpose to being on this planet. The world says this is what we should make our life about. There is no higher truth or justice to aspire to. That's the name of the game. That's what I'm going to do. And so I view the King of Pentacles as Capricorn energy. So they harness a more worldly Capricorn energy, and shadowy Capricorn is represented by the devil. So they never free themselves from their more worldly view of life. And that's okay. They have the free will to live their life whatever way they want. But what they don't see coming is some people were in relationships with people, well, and within themselves, they could have aligned with and invested in their more hopeful, believing, loving nature and not aligned with their more worldly, shadowy nature or self-protective or defensive nature. It has to be more about me, or these things are more important in the world. But since some of those people did not align with that aspect within themselves and didn't align with people who they could have worked with to help free them from whatever it is that manipulates them, they're going to go through a period of kind of being deceived and manipulated, because when we align with our own shadow nature, kind of represented by the devil, our shadow nature really doesn't have our best interests. And the devil lies, right? So could they live a life that looks very victorious and successful by worldly standards? Yes, but they will never, as long as those things are more important to them, they just don't like emotionally grow to their full potential of what they could have, you know? It's kind of like other people are emotionally growing and maturing themselves and freeing themselves from fear and insecurity and defensiveness and fear of being hurt and past pain and heartbreak and having to try to control or manipulate people. And they get to really live a life where it's not being so manipulated by the world and free to live their more authentic life. But because these people have a problem of having some hope and faith and belief in themselves or something, and they make their life more about, I do view, if I didn't say it, the King of Swords is Libra, and I view the King of Swords can be like a person's self-protective, defensive nature, that they think that is the right way to go, or making their life more about these things of the world they think will make them happy. So either they'll be in a relationship that's maybe not a very mature relationship, because in high vibe, the King of Pentacles, which can be male or female, would be people who really have learned these lessons in life. And some people were in a relationship with someone where they could have learned those lessons with those people, but they let go of aligning with people who align with them in their more high vibrational nature to get in relationship and align with people who align with them in their more worldly nature. And they might think it's justice, it's just not a more emotionally mature nature. Some of the people who are willing to stay in a relationship with them could be other people who are just in it more for the status, the ego, the image, as long as it benefits them. Some of them might have a hard time finding someone who wants to marry them. Some of them don't want to marry people, and they just create this illusion they're willing to bring that dream into reality, but they're being deceptive and manipulative. Or if they do want to get married, it's more for the ego, the image, and the status, but they don't want the people they're in relationship with to know that. But the more high vibrational people in their life will listen to their intuition. And those people will, even if they do marry them, they will end up getting out of the relationship with them, because they're not willing to give up their dreams and be more manipulated by these things of the world. And the people who are willing to stay in the relationship with them more for those reasons of the world either aren't willing to marry them, which they might have really wanted, male or female, for the status, the ego, or the image, or the person could be creating an illusion that they have much more status and image or money than they really have, and they don't have it. Or they'll be so manipulated by their want for these things of the world that they'll get in relationships with people who aren't who they say they are, and are more deceptive and manipulative and maybe stubborn or prideful or bossy or controlling. You know, you're either willing to temper your own shadowy ways of being to work together with other people who aren't acting in shadowy ways, or you think, that you can just be shadowy and other people will indulge you. But, high vibe people aren't going to keep indulging people who are kind of shadowy in some way. Those people are going to leave also. And the people they're going to be left with are kind of people who are maybe, kind of giving up a more inspired, authentic, loving, balanced relationship for a more immature relationship. But for some people, that is justice, because they were never who they said they were to begin with. And they don't deserve to be in a relationship in a way with people who are more just and fair and loving and nurturing and encouraging when they're not. And having to be in relationships with people who are kind of more on the same page as them, because they didn't learn the lessons to be in a more emotionally mature relationship either. They might not like being in a relationship with other people who aren't mature, but they're not more mature. but they can like trying to present themselves that they are so that more mature people will be in relationship with them. But I think more mature people, and that's the problem, is people get older, and some of these people didn't learn these lessons in life, but yet they're older, so people just assume they're more stable, balanced, mature, tempered in their ego. And then as people get in relationship with them, they find out they're not, and the other people have already been in those kind of relationships, where people could have put up with more bullshit when they were like 21 to 25. As they get older and have these life experiences, they're not willing to keep putting up with that bullshit. And they end up kind of having to be in relationships with people who are kind of just like them. And it could be people they really don't want to be in relationship with, but they might stay in relationship with them just to be able to indulge in a relationship, to present a certain illusion in the world about the type of person that they are. And the other people might be willing to, it's kind of like staying in the relationship for what you can get out of it and thinking it's just and fair. And the other people, it's obvious that the other people are in relationships with people because they really want to be in those relationships with people inspired by truth and love. And other people could be in relationships, well, this makes logical, practical sense. This looks like we have justice in the world. It looks like we manifested what other people have. But the other people aren't creating an illusion. Theirs is based on truth and love. So there you go, Libra. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.